Shame on you! May you never live another day!
I am a professor!
This is an Emory professor, everyone!
I am a professor of economics!
You're rabid dogs! You're fascists!
It was a peaceful protest until they started fighting troopers.
I agree with you. L-I-N. I reacted impulsively. I apologize.
No, you're right. It's right to rebel. I'm gonna share this.
Please remove the handcuffs.
And we're back. And once again, we've got an awesome panel. My good friend Randy Nantz, Green Beret Randy Nantz from the greatest state in the nation, Texas. Jeff MD, our in-house 007. Mike Sterling, our in-house guy who likes to blow stuff up. And Keith Graves, our in-house, believe it or not, chief of River City Police in California. And if you haven't heard it before, you heard it here first. So quick announcement, as of next Monday, Survival Dispatch News will be on its own channel. We'll put some notifications out on our community page. If you could go on over there and sign up and subscribe next Monday, that would be fantastic. And we've got some really cool new shows coming to the Survival Dispatch channel, but the news is going to be kind of kept off on its own. So Mike, now that we got you back, hit us with the conflicted question of the day.
Conflicted question of the day. Let's see. Grocery stores and mini marts have been ransacked of all food. Your group is low on food and is in desperate need of resources. What other locations would you start looking for food or possible supplies to barter with? This and many more questions at the end of the show.
That sounds like straight out of next week's headlines. That question, probably pretty good timing. So
don't know what you're talking about.
Next up, before we jump into the topic at hand, which by the way, we'll be preparing for peaceful protests and riots. We're going to share the asshole of the day email. We get quite a selection of these emails. And when I sent this to Mike last night, he had some choice comments. We probably won't get into the profane edition, but Mike, what is your answer to this gentleman? Or
okay, so
maybe I shouldn't assume what their gender is, right? You know,
yeah, ever none one to our support line. I'm very curious as to how and why you guys think you should be preaching about overcoming toxic masculinity when your channel is full of clickbait videos, not to mention the thumbnails full of evil brown people. This is where I want you to take note. Not to mention the thumbnails full of evil brown people. And your thumbnails are just white men with guns running through the wasteland like SEAL Team 6.
Which one is it?
Yeah, pick one. Okay. You only get both. You don't get both. Just pick one. All right. You're just praying for a Civil War II, aren't you? So you all can be heroes. Well, I hate to break this to you, but I think everybody here has been shot at before. Show of hands. Who likes getting shot at? Oh, look, nobody. Yeah. Get over yourself. Look, if you've got something to say about this, ever none one, I invite you to come onto the show and debate us face to face. Come on to the show. We will have an open discussion and we will all remain nice and calm and cool and collective and see how fast you start slinging names. Right. But that's my 2 pesos.
Wouldn't that be a great start to the brand new Survival Dispatch News channel starting next week on Monday?
I like it.
I think he's a resident of River City, personally.
Probably.
Could be.
My question is overcoming toxic masculinity. When have we ever discussed the need to overcome toxic masculinity? My wife says, no, we need more toxic masculinity. We need to spread it, to let it grow, to fertilize it. Because what we have are too many soy boys.
Yeah.
Bring back bullying.
So amen to that, which by the way, I'm fully anticipating this episode and Fridays, which will be the last one on the main SD channel, will get demonetized because every single one's demonetized. When I spoke with an engineer from YouTube last week, they actually told me that if you verbally say amen, or you put it in the video description, or it's in the comments, that's one negative score against your video. It's not, may not get it demonetized all by itself, but it adds up your score of bad points. So I say amen to your wife, Jeff. Well done.
Does that mean Jesse Jackson is completely demonetized anytime he posts anything? Because he can't say
Jesse Jackson. I haven't heard that name in forever, man. Is that guy
Right?
still alive?
Yeah, he is. He's
Amen.
shaking somebody somewhere for money.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
that's a great jumping off point to discuss riots and peaceful protests. So, Keith, we've covered this ad nauseum in the past, but things are starting to ramp up now with the craziness in these protests and riots. And Mike's got some information on potentially some infected, was it mice that were released or something potentially? But Keith, this is your wheelhouse. So get us started as far as what can the average person do who has to work or travel to or through downtown urban centers and they get caught in the middle of SHTF? What do they do? What can they prepare?
So the biggest thing is you have to acknowledge to yourself that you know that this is going to continue for the rest of the year and it's not going to get better. Once you acknowledge that and know that, one of the biggest things you can do right now is start looking at intelligence the best that you can, right, for your area. Meaning, look at the Twitter accounts that the Antifa, the whoever are using to communicate in your area. So you can monitor every day, wake up, say, all right, I got to go into the city, right? Let's say you got to go into Austin, right? Go up and you look at all the Austin Antifa people and you look at all of them and you look and see what they're saying and what they're doing right now. If you can avoid that area of where they're going to protest because they love blocking roads now, that's kind of the go-to thing. Good example is San Francisco Bay Area during that A15 day they shut down several freeways. You should have known that that was coming because they were all talking about it on Twitter and saying what they were going to do. And the cops knew about it, but like we'll get on the whole separate subject of why the cops aren't doing anything. You should know, like, all right, I need to look at reroute surface areas. Well, you would look at one of them, 880 in Hayward. You would know, like, I'm not getting off the freeway there. It's all shit all around there. It's better probably just to stay home that day and not go out, right? And just so get that good hardcore intelligence of what their movements are that day and find out what they're doing. Next up is have like a go bag of everything that you need, that if you've got to leave your car behind to jump on a commuter train to take your way home. And then if something happens to the commuter train, you know, that you can now go from there and just have constant plans and just be ready to go on the fly, man. Because one of the things that I remember, I was in a protest in Berkeley, and I remember it went into an area that people didn't expect, and it went into this little business area. And I remember seeing just regular people going like, the hell? Like, you know, like you could tell they were like, did not know what to do. And I remember I went to a blocking position. I remember seeing like a whole group of people like, I don't know where to go. And they're just about to get clobbered because it's coming. And I'm like, hey, run up 3 blocks and go down 2 more and catch the BART train and get out. And they were just gonna be like, thank God, you know, they just need direction. Don't be that guy. Don't be like the person like, I need direction, you know, like do your own direction. A good example is every cop makes memes about directing traffic. And it's like the road, you'll have road closed sign, and every cop will post it in their Facebook page of like road closed. And they're like, guess what I'm doing today? And every cop answers with, can I get around? Can I just go through? I live right there. Because people only know one way to get home, you know? And when we block the road, like people paper lock because they don't know how to get home. For 20 years, they've been driving the same route and they only know to get home that one way. And you take it away from them and they don't know what to do.
Absolutely amazing. Mike, you've commented on this before as far as having the ability to adapt, you know, in a fluid situation. Do you want to touch on that again?
I mean, it all comes down to, you know, like we've discussed before, stress inoculation, as well as, you know, the human mind does not rise to the occasion. It's only going to fall to the level of its training. That's it. That's the only way that it's going to do it. And the more stress that you put yourself through in in advance of a situation, the clearer that you're going to be able to think. And it's training, but it's training for your mind and to control an emotional response. So if you've done your planning, if you've done your training, if you are, if you've worked the maps in advance, that's why, you'll see pre-mission guys will be sitting there with a map, memorizing the map. Well, there's a reason that we're memorizing the map, because maybe you're driving at high speed and you can't choose what roads that you're going to get to go down, but you want to be able to know exactly where you are. So yeah, the more preparation that you can do prior to these sort of things, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah,
it's a good point. The other thing too is the preparation. Like when you go to work, like when I go to a protest, I have the same kit every time. I have a gas mask and I have chemical agents, right? You should probably have a gas mask with you, and you should probably have chemical agents to counter what people, to give yourself a safe space to get out of. The other thing I bring with me is I bring a 3-day pack filled with food, water, and extra clothes, because I don't know when I'm coming home. And I don't expect that the police department is going to feed me, because I've been there before where we'll feed you, and I'm not going to go to the restaurant where they're going to spit in my food, So, I bring all the extra food, and for the ladies, I remember reading an after action report from Seattle PD after what was the big riots they had there, like 10, 15 years.
The chop riot?
It was it was like they had world conference there. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but they
G8 or something like that.
Yeah,
yes,
Seattle PD,
the G8.
They got hammered. And I remember reading an after action report, and they actually broke down for and women couldn't get off the line, they couldn't get out of the area, and they were stuck for 24 hours in some places. It was just crazy. And so bringing feminine products and other things that you're going to need, it's just expect as these things go on that you're not going to come home for 3 days, or you're going to have to evade for 3 days.
Well, I mean, if you're in Seattle of all places, all you have to do is go to the men's restroom to find the women's products.
This is true.
People balk at civilians having gas masks. I mean, I got 4 different gas masks, and one of them I got was better than the one the department issued me, and I was going to protests all the time. Right now, I know me and Mike kind of debate this back and forth. Right now, my best gas mask for riot control stuff is an Avon, which costs the same price as, what's the name of that company that keeps Mira Safety?
Yeah.
It's the same price, but I can buy the size I need. Theirs is only one size fits all, and it's got this weird, the plastic is weird on it. But you need something that when the gas starts popping off, you can throw it on and start thinking just the big thing is you'll have cops over here, you have protesters over here, move laterally. Don't go towards the cops. Definitely don't go towards the cops. Definitely don't go towards the protesters. Move laterally and get out. Oh, dang it, I got to turn my emojis off.
So I don't have near the knowledge or experience that you and Mike do, and Randy as well, with tactical gas masks. I will give Mira credit for one thing, because I train 5 days a week, and the Mira has a nice indentation under the viewport to get a cheek weld on your rifle. So some of the other companies who sent us, tactical gas masks, they're like, yeah, no problem, just put a riser on your optic. Well, I don't want my optic this high off the pick rail, sort of thing. And found that the Mira, for me at least, especially with having monovision, was really easy for me to get a proper cheek weld on it at the right height. But Mike, your thoughts?
Well, that's why I go with the full face shield mask. But the biggest thing that you need, just, we've gone back to this a bunch of times, is possession does not equate to proficiency.
Yeah,
it does not. I know a ton of people that'll put on gas masks and get mad at them because they don't work. And it's like, hey, stupid. 1, you're wearing it wrong. 2, you've got your filter screwed in. Great. What's screwed into the filter port on the other side? Oh, you took that thing out. Well, of course, it makes it a lot easier to breathe. because you're not breathing through the filters now, stupid. Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. It's amazing. The next thing on that whole thing is
seal.
Facial hair.
that facial hair. Facial hair will kill a seal in a heartbeat. Now, can I deal without a perfect seal if I'm dealing with riot agents? Yes, I can. Okay. But you don't want your beard hanging down to here and trying to tuck it up and around into your gas mask, because if they're using a wet agent like CN, right? Or you get something on that, all it's going to do now, what happens when you take a wick and you put it into oil?
Soaks it all up.
Not good.
Soaks it all up to the top. Guess what your beard does with wet agents? It does the exact same thing. So I've seen a guy wearing a mask, had his beard hanging out. Somebody sprayed him and it wicked it. And he was like, ha ha ha, can't get good. And all of a sudden now he's got a mask full of CN and he doesn't know how it got in there because it just wicked right up his beard. Right. And that's why, we do, my crew, we do, CBRN environment, right? Live chemical and biological weapons, live radiological environments, and live tick TIMs. And guess what is in every one of our CBRN kits? Every single one has a battery powered electric razor in there. And yeah, I hate it, but the beard comes off. All right. Stop living the Taliban life. Cut the damn beard off.
Yeah, when I was in Afghanistan, all the guys had beards, but they had their gas masks. I go, you can have one or the other. You can't have both.
No,
because it's not going to work. And
yeah, at least we're doing it deliberately. We know when we're going to go.
And then I shaved it. But I've mentioned before, you can also, it sounds gross, you can get Vaseline or axle grease and just smear it on there so it forms a seal.
It helps. It helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But
better than nothing.
Oh yeah, absolutely is. It is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Randy, do you want to weigh in on this?
No, I pretty much agree with all that, and the whole beard thing, I would shave mine in a second, but again, I think it's more or less, you're going to be outside and hopefully not in an enclosed room. So,
Run.
Yeah. And you'll be lucky. You'll be lucky if it's tear gas.
It doesn't. What my point to that is, we're not talking about a biological agent that's going to kill you or cause other damage. This thing is uncomfortable. And if you're outside and you have that mask on, maybe your seal isn't perfect, but it's not going to be the same if you were in an enclosed space with that same gas.
Yeah. Well, and what if you wind up with a third-party bad actor who decides to target both the cops and the protesters at something like this, right? And we've seen that happen before, right? We've seen that happen in France and in Russia.
So I've seen it here in Boise where during 2020 we had Antifa riots going on in BLM, and BLM came to town, and there was a bunch of us that used to work these protests, and I was watching a guy. He was dressed as BLM, agitating patriots. And I'm like, that guy's not right. And so me and my friend worked undercover forever, and I'm like, let's follow him. And then so he left, he broke after everybody started getting agitated and he got everybody going. We followed him and he went to a car parked 5 blocks away. He goes in there and then now takes all the BLM stuff off and now puts on Patriot stuff, grabs a rifle, and then leaves. And I go to look at his car and he's got his VIN number blocked with no plates. And I'm like, oh, look at you. He's just an agitator. And he went in and then now he's agitating BLM. And then once everybody got riled up, he left. Yeah. And he was just an agitator.
Yeah.
What's that?
Just wonder who was paying that guy.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Well, and see, that's the thing. It was funny is I saw him walking and I was like, you know what? I got the phone number for intelligence for the people running it. So I call one of the intelligence people and I'm like, hey, I got somebody you want to stop. And I remember the narcs were coming up because the narcs work undercover for those things. So I remember them walking up, seeing the guy. And I train those guys, and all of a sudden they look over at me and they're like, "The hell are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the guy. Go get him." And they took him off. I don't want to know anything. I don't care. It's not my problem. But I was down there peacefully protesting against BLM, which is your God-given right. And I told myself when I retired, I was going to go on the side of the right people. and I was going to counter protest all the dirtbags that are destroying America. And that's what I do. If you decide to go down and do that, be smart about it. Right. So there we go again, man. See, even the computer agrees.
It's infected you now. It left my Mac and it's gone to your Mac now.
So if you go down and peacefully protest, some of my recommendations would be that you want to be able to become a gray man if things get bad. Yeah. And you standing out there with a rifle and, your pistol belt and plate carrier and all that kind of stuff, you're a target for all the fascists to come after you. Right. And what you want to do is just go in as a gray man. I went like this and I protested them. I did everything, that I ever wanted to do. And there was one point where I saw things getting a little out of control and I'm like, I don't feel like beating people today, so I did what I'm talking about here. I had my 3-day pack on and I went laterally and I left. And then, it didn't get too crazy. Right. But I know there are people here that are going to want to counter protest, and that's awesome. We need more of that in America. Okay. When you do that though, my recommendation is to leave the rifle at home because, look, man, the chances of you needing that are minimal. Number one, it's cumbersome and it gets in the way. Most of your stuff is going to be less lethal kind of stuff. And it brings unwanted attention to you. And you need to just be a gray man and blend in with everybody and then go peacefully protest and then bounce if you're there to create violence and to go fight them, go do your thing. But that's part of the problem with America,
I would add that the odds of somebody walking away from a situation like that, like Kyle Rittenhouse did, pretty slim. The chances that you're going to escape with your life, face charges, get off on those charges, not be injured through the whole process are pretty slim. God was certainly looking out for Kyle, but that's an unusual outcome. I would add Keith as well, because I agree with the gray man stuff. Byrna make a backpack called the Ballista Pack, and you and I have talked about them, Keith. And it looks like a kid's backpack. It's as gray man as it gets. And it has 2 3A soft body panels in it. And it takes a millisecond to reach over your head and deploy the one for the front. So you can carry goods with it. If I had kids in school, I wouldn't put them in public school. But if they were in public school, they'd have Ballista Packs. And then the reason I put this soft body armor on is I can wear this comfortably under a jacket, a sweater, a shirt, whatever, not draw a whole bunch of undue attention to myself. And it's not like wearing level 4 plates where I'm bogged down by significant weight. But back to the gas mask thing, just briefly. So in this last summer here in Florida, we had a stretch, I want to say it was somewhere around 60 days, where the heat index for the high each day was in excess of 110 degrees. So there was a stretch of like 115, 116 with the heat index. And I would do some of my run and gun training with a tactical gas mask. Not once did I have any problems breathing. What I had a problem with was claustrophobia. I talked to Mike about it, that I did 5 circuits of training. The first time I made it through 3 of them and had to rip the mask off because I thought I was going to have an anxiety attack. And I've never had an anxiety attack in my entire life. And, a couple of weeks later, I went at it again and was able to make it through 5 circuits. I could breathe just fine. I was watching my smartwatch. My heart rate never got over about 117, 118. But the claustrophobia, wearing a gas mask, if you're not used to it, it's real. Like, it's serious stress.
Well, you may have felt like it wasn't bothering your breathing, but clearly it was.
It was, but I'm claustrophobic by nature. I don't like being jammed in somewhere tight. And with vision in one eye, it reduced my field of vision even more. I just didn't care for it all. Like, if I really stress myself, Randy, from a cardiovascular standpoint, my watch will hit, 135 to 140, and I didn't get anywhere near that. And my O2 level was still pretty high, but the claustrophobia was absolutely real for me, each to their own.
And the heat.
Yeah, the heat doesn't help either. Yeah. Keith, what'd you grab there?
So here's the mirror. I just grabbed the first mask if I had to grab one and go. this is not the one I'd want, right? But the downside, if you have a ginormous head like I do, they only come in one size, and that kind of blows. You can't get a good cheek weld or a good cheek weld. They're fine. They work they work fine.
Heat pants new.
What was that?
Look at the boy's head. It looks like Sputnik. It's gigantic.
So the reason why I like my other mask, my Avon, is because it's a large and it actually fits, right? But if I put this on, I know I can wear this for a couple hours. It'll be just fine. Is that your Avon?
No, this is the Mira CM.
Oh, the new one.
So this is the one that has the indentation below the viewport, and you can get a really good cheek weld on it. But I've got a handful of masks. I don't have the expertise that you guys do, but this is the most comfortable of the ones I have.
So my recommendation is when you buy this mask, the filter is going to be all sealed up. Whatever, man, cut it open and put it on, because you're not going to have time to put this together. Okay. So, and then honestly, like, go ahead and put it in your pouch, do whatever. And then what I would practice doing if I were you was, number one, just like what Chris was talking about, put it on and wear it for hours to make sure that you get used to it, and go out and exercise, do stuff, do whatever, make your neighbors look at you weird, like you know something they don't, whatever, right? And then get used to wearing this. And then I would go to the range and I would start shooting it at the range, right? My personal recommendation, we talked about no rifles when you're doing this stuff, just because if you have to unass your vehicle and now flee, you're going to have to leave your rifle behind, because you're not going to walk around the city with a rifle, because you're drawing, your whole goal is to look normal, right? And so one of the things I like about, you see me wearing these all the time, because I would go like on raids and stuff, and I would put my plate carriers and stuff on, and I would just button this all the way up, and I just look like a fat man walking down the street, but I was actually strapped. But you just want to blend in. And then if you got to put the mask on, you can go pull it out real quick, put the mask on. All you got to do is get a block away and you'll be fine, and no big deal.
Yeah, good advice.
Chris, do you still have your blue filters there that I left you? Your training filters?
Yeah, somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where they are.
So based upon what Keith was saying, yes, you should do these things. But when you're doing these things, you should not use your primary filter for doing that kind of stuff. You should purchase yourself a cheap, just a cheap training only filter. And usually, like, what I do is we use so many of these things, we retain a quantity of them, and I paint the whole face of it blue, so that you know this is my training filter only. Because the last thing you want to do is go burning through your good quality filters for no particular reason. And they're the ones, get on eBay and buy the cheapest ones that you can find that'll still fit your mask. Buy those ones, use that one as a training only filter.
So to be honest, I had CNCS filters assigned to me. I had the same one for 10 years. It took me through, and like, there was a point where, like, at 10 years, I'm like, well, I was getting a new mask, and I was wondering when these filters were, I mean, that was training once a year in the gas chamber, plus all the protests, plus other, like, we call them mobile field force, MFF training, I mean, those things last forever.
If you're not putting them up against anything serious. Now, the fact
it's just CNCS. I mean, it's
right. But once you get past that 2-year point, don't think about exposing that to anything else. And I spray you with a whole bunch of bug spray, it's going straight through.
Yeah. So look, they make our training filters were CNCS only. Mm-hmm. And you can buy them through Mira. See, look, it agrees with me. You can buy them through Mira. It'll last you forever. But again, like Mike is saying, if you're worried about CBurn, you might have a CBurn only. But Mike, I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel that even with a CBurn filter, you should unpackage that, have extras that are sealed up, but have everything unsealed. A lot of people like keeping things in plastic. I don't get that way. In an emergency, you're gonna
shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And also, like, anything. I mean, And the storage of the things, like, you know, Chris, I talked you through this whole thing. The storage of these things, you can get an additional 2 years of real good quality use out of filters if you take those filters and you go on ahead. Well, get an extra good 2 years of shelf life out of 2 to 4 years actually. I store mine in a refrigerator. I have a cheap beater refrigerator downstairs that is for nothing but meds and gas mask filters, but we're using them in a professional environment, and you know, we get a lot dirtier than anybody else does. So yeah, your mileage may vary, kids. Of course, we dump those filters every time we use them, but you know.
So can we talk about everyday carry real quick too? Like on your person?
Sure. Yeah.
So I would have a medium to a large size pistol on you with 2 extra mags, your knife. And then to be honest, I would, again, I keep always talk about bear spray, right? Have a big ass can of bear spray that you can just like clip on and then go. So when you have to go out into the wild, you can shoot somebody if you need to, but almost everything's going to be less lethal. And that bear spray will keep a good crowd away at the same time. I would mask up if you could ahead of time before you do that though.
But whatever you do, don't use wasp spray because you'll go to jail for that. Right?
You will, 100%.
Yeah.
The comments tell me every time it's a federal crime.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that person to show up.
The people that say that that's illegal are the same people that when they load their mags, they put 1 round ball, 1 round hollow point, 1 round ball, 1 round hollow point.
Yeah, good stuff.
And I think it's in a high point on top of that.
Yeah. I think it's a YouTube section 2341, paragraph 3 that forbids you from using wasp spray. Just if you want the statute, you want to refer to the statute. That's where it came.
Those are the people that are using the old Rugers.
It is a federal crime, but it doesn't say what federal. It could be a crime in Canada. It could be a crime in Austria.
Crime somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's against the law somewhere.
Yeah, fair enough. So actually,
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It is. While you've got the podium, Jeff, some recommendations on your part. If somebody is unfortunate, they didn't catch the news, like Keith said, to monitor X and whatnot, as far as movements, they get stuck somewhere in a downtown core, peaceful protest breaks out. What are your recommendations?
Well, yeah, I would echo everything they're saying, but what I would do, preparation is better than panic. And look at your route to work, your route to the school where your kids go, the daycare center, anywhere you might have to go and have to get there. Have different routes and practice those different routes. Everywhere I've lived, I always had 4, 5, 6 different routes to and from work, so that it wasn't so much for protests or stuff, but I did it was surveillance. The last thing I wanted to do was go meet a Russian guy and then drag him back to either my house or drag him back to my office, which was undercover. So you always have different routes, different ways you can go, but you got to practice them so that you're not sitting there with your phone looking at the GPS going, okay, shit, Google Maps tells me to turn left up here. Know it already. And when you do it, find them, practice them, and look for landmarks that okay, by this elementary school, I need to turn left. Up here by this pizza parlor, I turn right. And that way you're not looking at maps. You look at maps to plan the route. And paper maps are better, but you can get Google Maps and, have it picks a route to work. Okay, then you punch in, this road's not available. So it'll give you an alternate route. And it'll keep giving you alternates. If you're lazy, you want to do it that way. I prefer a paper map because it gives you much more perspective than a 3x5 screen. And you can look at, there's other things that there may not be a road that goes from here to here, but there may be a parking lot that connects the two. And you can cut through a parking lot, but Google Maps won't tell you that.
An interesting anecdotal example of this was our friend, Dr. Jennifer Stanis, who's also an attorney. She provides expert testimony in court cases, and she was testifying at the case in Seattle where the 3 cops had been charged with murder, and thankfully her testimony swayed the jury, and they were found not guilty. She rented a car and did exactly what you said, Jeff. She had 4 or 5 different ways home from Tacoma, where the trial was, to her home. That she has one. They live in Vegas and Washington State, and she got followed on several different occasions, and had to take evasive measures to get them off her tail because they wanted to know where she lived and they were issuing death threats against her. So it's a real thing. Randy, do you want to give us some advice on what happens if you find yourself in the midst of a peaceful protest and you're one of those people like us that know which bathroom to use?
Well, I think everybody's pretty much covered it. I mean, everything we've said, I would go in line with. I would also add that, if you go to that peaceful, like Keith suggested, you go to that peaceful protest to take part in it. Like it was great advice being the gray man, because reality is, you're going to be a law-abiding citizen, so you definitely could get thrown in jail. And when it comes to riots, one of the things we do, unlike January 6th, is you don't normally arrest the whole crowd, right? They go in and look for the instigators. So if you're out there being very boisterous and you're helping instigate folks, or if you're carrying that weapon, they're going to identify you as such. So again, you just don't want to highlight yourself in any way. If you find yourself there unexpectedly, hopefully you have made some of these plans that we've all talked about here. So if you need to take an alternate out, I think that would be the biggest one. Like when we saw in 2020, some of those people got stuck, and had they taken another route, they probably wouldn't have ended up there. And of course, they're all calling 911 and no one was showing up, and for obvious reasons. I'm not saying that's anything against law enforcement or anything else. It's just the situation we're in right now. And, I guess that's it.
They bring up a good point about like maybe law enforcement won't show up. I don't think people understand the critical point we're at with law enforcement in America. There is nobody.
Right.
As an example, today, there's a funeral for Tobin Butler, Deputy Tobin Butler that died here in Boise. Everybody's at his funeral right now. Sorry, I'm not there. I can't do another one. There 8 police officers were shot yesterday in one incident, 4 died.
Yep.
And I'm telling you right now, it's because there isn't enough training for them to overcome these obstacles, because they've taken it away. They've taken the tactical training away, the riot training, all that. They don't want us doing that. They've made it perfectly clear. And I posted on my social media today that you can see up there. It was a picture of a cop from 15 years ago. People may or may not remember. It was from UC Davis, University of California, Davis, where it was a lieutenant, where a bunch of protesters were locked arms. They were actually trying to take his prisoner from him. And he has a fire extinguisher size pepper spray, and he's pepper spraying them all. And they ended up firing him. And that was in the Bay Area where I was at. We all realized, like, okay, game on. We're not going to do anything anymore. And so we stopped responding to a lot of stuff, because you're going to prosecute us. Well, no matter what we do, if we do something, if we don't do something, it doesn't matter. Somebody's going to come after us. So everybody stopped working and everybody quit. And then now every department, when I go teach at a police department, one of the first questions I ask is, what's your staffing? And it's anywhere from 50 on the normal end to 75 on the good end, being percentage. That's not enough to do anything, right? And so you have to be your own cop, and you have to start thinking to yourself, like, I'll give an example. I know people are asking, well, what do I do when I'm trapped in my car and the protesters block the road? Well, what the flip are you doing there? Did you not pay attention and see the signs ahead of time that this was going to occur? I'll give an example. I came out of the Oakland airport and I turned on the news right away, and I'm listening to the AM news because I knew that Oakland was hot right now for protests. And I hear, it looks like protesters are starting to shut down 880, right where I was. Awesome. I drove through Oakland. It's the worst part of Oakland. So I made sure that I loaded my gun out of my luggage first. And then I drove through the surface streets through the worst part of Oakland to try and go around the freeway. And I'm glad I did, because they were hitting people in cars and doing all the stuff they're not supposed to do. Right. So why a lot of people are like, I'm just going to go do it anyways. I'm going to run them all over. Dude, you're going to jail then. Okay. And they're going to come after you. The best thing you can do is avoid it and go around it. If you see them blocking the road and you see traffic blocking up and you know it's because of protests, get off the freeway. Get off the freeway and go another direction and figure out how to get home.
I mean, that's a principle that our friend Tony Blauer preaches frequently, is have a high enough level of situational awareness to see the problem ahead of time and don't go there. You know, just avoid it, right? I want to back up just a little bit and come back to you, Jeff, since, you know, you were in the CIA, you know, kind of call it the Greyman Industry, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts more so on Greyman principles and your recommendations with regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, that was our whole career. I mean, I'd be overseas and I didn't have diplomatic immunity. I was there as a U.S. businessman. And if I'd gotten arrested, as my wife said, what would happen? I said, I'd go to prison. Yeah, you want to be boring and you want to dress for the area you're in. If you're in a business district, be business casual or in a suit, because you look like everybody who's supposed to be there. If you're down there in a neon green tracksuit and you look like you're either a rapper or a mobster, people are going to notice you, and you don't want to be noticed. But you know, don't wear anything really flashy. You know, I didn't wear expensive watches. I had a nice watch that I wore at home, and I had a watch that I wore when I was traveling, just so it didn't want to be a target for someone to steal. Because these are protests. They might be protests today. They might be a riot tomorrow, and they might be looting the day after. So, you know, like they say, make yourself look like not worth robbing is one. You don't want to be dressed like a homeless guy necessarily, but you don't want to be having the Omega watch or the Rolex either. So you want to look boring, and the more boring, the better. You want people to look right past you like you aren't even there. But if they're coming in your house or they're coming into your neighborhood, you know, then the Greyman thing ain't going to work. So then you've got to decide, I've got to protect my home. I've got to protect my family. And I think what Keith was saying about the less lethal, I would have, less lethal if they're outside my house. That may change if they come inside my house. But, I've got a fenced in backyard. If someone comes up and tries to go over my fence, they're going to get pepper spray.
They got to get through the javelinas first.
This is true. And the javelinas are on my side. But if they ever come in my house, different story.
So how many, bodies did you dispose of by feeding them to the javelinas?
Today, none.
Trick question. You don't have to answer it. Trick question.
So
you have chupacabras. Don't lie.
I believe we all know the answer to that is, Senator, I have no clear recollection of any such actions, operations, or incidents.
Listen, Mike and I have the chupacabras in the Appalachians in Alabama and Georgia. They're not out there in Arizona. We've got that market cornered. Actually, if you go to Blairsville, Georgia, there's the largest Bigfoot museum in the entire world, by the way, with legitimate spottings of Bigfoot. I have the pictures to prove it. No, you're not buying it?
No, I think it was just Mike when he didn't shave his body hair one day. He went out without a shirt.
You know, I feel attacked now.
You know, that guy's got a hair sweater.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, so going back to less lethal for your house, I don't want to go over everything I have at my house, but like I would vary everything, right? Like the pepper spray, bear spray thing is great. Sometimes you want to create a little bit of distance, go buy bean bags for your shotgun. And that way you can do targeted things against people. I've used 37 millimeter impact rounds, and I've used 12 gauge. 12 gauge is always done a little bit better because it's a little bit smaller, and the kinetic energy is a little bit better because like it's being spread over a tiny bit versus 37 millimeter, a little bit more. But certainly there is
especially
something
when you skip them into their shins.
All right,
That'll
so
shut somebody down.
So I got to tell you though, you're right that the 37 millimeter wood projectiles work really well. You shoot them at the ground in front of the protesters, and then they come up as splinters at shin height, and then go in. Those work really well. If you were talking about our house now, right? I'm not talking about.
Right.
I would never do anything to harm a protester. But doing like 37, there look wooden dowels put into this big, 37 projectile. There's also another one for a 37 millimeter if you want to buy one, because you can buy one as a civilian. You can load up little rubber pellets, 37 mil or not 37 millimeter. What size is a double-aught buck? But there's size of double-aught buck, but little rubber bullets.
38 caliber.
And it just sprays them in every direction. Those work out really well. But you do want to have very less lethal options, so you can screw them up when they come. And then it may turn lethal at some point. I have been in court for officers that have used lethal force after using less lethal. And certainly it's like the officers laying out all the less lethal they did beforehand. It's like, man, what else was this guy supposed to do? He could have shot him right off the bat. It's a different world now.
That's the same tactic that's professed by Berna. That if you use less lethal and the person keeps coming at you and your life is truly in danger and you have to use lethal force, the chances that you would have a jury, even in a deep blue area where you couldn't find one person who would sympathize with you on the jury, that you tried less lethal before you escalated it, are pretty slim. Like it's probably gonna help you get a favorable decision.
So church security teams, I'll sit in meetings and I'll be like, so your only option is to kill people, right? And they're like, what? Wait, what? And it's like, well, you only carry guns. That's it. So your only option is to kill people. Have you done defensive tactics training? They haven't. They haven't done defensive tactics. They've done nothing. All right, your only option is to kill people. And it's like, go put some pepper spray in your pocket. Just that way you can show, even at like big SWAT operations, we'd always have somebody with a beanbag gun, like a 12 gauge with beanbags that are just slung. And we may go in with rifles, but if it comes to us, like, that way, if we go to court and they're like, so you're only going to kill somebody, right? Oh no, man. We all had tasers. Plus we had a beanbag gun back there, and we show all the less lethal options we had, but your client decided to go turn this into a lethal option.
Yeah.
Just something to think about, because a lot of concealed carriers, they're going into a protest area, and your only option is to kill people. That's not acceptable.
Was it you, Keith, that said
with a knife? If you can tag them with a beanbag and take them down, you can say, someone's coming at you with a gun, maybe a little different.
Beanbags work awesome, by the way.
Really,
Keith, was it you that said on a prior episode of Survival Dispatch News that a gun was, relative to, say, a hammer, and if all you have is a hammer, every problem appears to be a nail? Was that your quote or Mike's quote?
That's enough. Mike.
Yeah, that way. I always get it mixed up with it because they reverse the screen on these.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've slept since then.
Just have options and just think about it.
Yeah.
And look at the cops and think, what are the cops doing? What do they carry? Well, the cops aren't doing anything right now, but what are they carrying? They're carrying a gas mask. They're carrying less lethal options. They got a firearm. They've got all these things. And the worst thing you want to do is run into a building and then try to shelter in place. You keep moving, just keep moving, just get out of the area. Don't hunker down and be like, well, this is a night. I like Starbucks. This is a good place to go. I can sit here and use their Wi-Fi and get help. No, man, Starbucks is going to be the first place they're going to start wrecking when they come down.
Perspective,
yeah, because who's going to push back?
You want to be Heinz Guderian, not Mark Clark at Anzio.
I didn't understand any of that.
Heinz Guderian invented the Blitzkrieg.
Oh, thank you.
Clark invaded Italy at Anzio and then promptly hunkered down. So the Germans had plenty of time to surround him and pound the crap out of him.
Hey, bro, you were a 12 Bravo at one time. Don't look at me like that. You were a 12 Bravo at one time before you advanced. I stopped at being a 12 Bravo. You went on.
I'm communicating with Keith now.
Find the mine. Find the mine.
Right. Yeah. I left that for a reason.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Well, as far as sprays are concerned, Mike and I both are pretty fond of products from Sabre, and actually Jeff has some as well. These are pretty slick. They're a little bit on the pricey side. You can buy some cheaper ones, but we bought a bunch and tested them in the backyard at different distances away from a silhouette target to kind of mimic a person being there. And I'll give the Sabre credit for being a really good product. And you kind of have to practice with it anyway. I wouldn't want to get into any situation with any tool having 0 reps or practice with it. So it's worth it to buy it and practice with it and then carry these with you. I carry these in my pockets when I go different places. Nobody can see. It's easy to retrieve. It's easy to spin and pop the trigger on it. Good to go. Randy, what are your thoughts on? Say
I'm
again,
saying
Jeff?
get the Grizzly Spray, man, because it comes in a big can. That little thing you have right there is going to last about 10 seconds. You know,
So
for an individual, like if someone was trying to rob you or assault you, that little can right there is going to be fine. But far as riot control,
No.
that is a boom, and then it's over. That Grizzly Spray is 10 million Scoville heat. You can't get anything hotter as far as that type of spray, not WAPs, not any of the other stuff. What law enforcement uses is about 2 or 3 million Scoville heat. You got 10 million and it shoots out there. That's what I would do for sure.
So the biggest problem with that, and I am Randy and Keith, I am 100% with you guys on, you know what, that's the stuff to have. If you're allowed to have it by the laws in your state or city. Because, man, let me tell you, I went through a lot of options before having to settle on those little tiny cans to go to New York City with.
Yeah, but hold on. That's if you get caught. It's
Well,
only illegal if you're caught.
It's true.
Just
Man, you just have it in your little bag. You didn't bring it purposely.
Who
When
was
the
that
riot
kid
broke
you
out,
had?
you had no choice.
We are not attorneys at Survival Dispatch. We are not giving legal advice.
That's
Just-
correct.
Okay, I cannot
Nobody's
tell
giving
you
me-
how many times I'd catch somebody riding dirty, but they're riding dirty because they're worried about their own self-protection.
Right.
And it's like my best all-time video camera, we just got cameras and it was hooked up to my glasses. So everything you looked at was on camera. I remember I made a car stop. The dude was just hauling ass and I'm like, I just gonna tell him to slow down. Well, I walk up and he's got an AR-15 in the back seat. Now everybody in Free America is thinking like big deal. Like in California, that's a felony. And so you see the camera, it stops and then it goes up, around, and then it goes, "Hello, sir. Have a great day. Just slow down. Thank you." And he's like, "But wait." And it's like, there's no,
Nope.
but wait. Just slow down. Have a great day. And he's like wanting to tell me like, I have an explanation. I don't care. Right. And then the body camera was like up, over, down, like, so it doesn't catch the rifle. I go back, I get in the car, shut it off, run back up. And I'm like, "You're an idiot. Hide it, man. Like, go put it in the trunk." And, you know, like, so he's like, "But I was coming back from the range." I'm like, "I don't care. Let's talk. Let's talk about how you're going to hide this from the cops."
So definitely not speed at the same time.
Yeah. If you're riding dirty, don't be an idiot.
Yes.
You'll pay attention to yourself.
I had a good friend of mine many years ago who used to preach, if you're going to break the law, never break more than one law at a time. So,
oh, you know what? Here's another thing before I forget about it. While you're in these areas and you're kind of doing your escape and evasion, or you're in your car or whatever, I would 100% make sure you keep yourself safe from COVID and wear a mask and wear sunglasses and a ball cap.
Yeah.
Maybe a hoodie with a
I am
glass.
not telling you to do anything unethical or illegal, but it is super important to keep yourself safe from the bug. Wear your mask, wear your sunglasses, wear a ball cap, preferably a hoodie, and then just go. And then if you got to protect yourself, don't take it off. Don't do anything. Just go.
Well, yeah, because
And you know,
See for it as you will.
And you know, if the glasses are mirrored like aviator glasses at the same time, wait,
If
can
you're
I start calling you Uncle Ted at that point?
right.
Well-
If you're in a city like New York City, they have phenomenal facial recognition. So if you show up on video and you have a prior arrest, 100% they're going to ID who you are. Okay. I'm not if you're just a
Don't they
normal
have
dude,
no cash bail there? Can I just get right out?
you
Yeah,
can,
you'll be fine.
right? Yeah.
You'll be
But you're
fine.
also a right wing extremist, and you're the problem with America, so they're going to
Yeah,
charge
I'm not
you.
getting out. You're right.
Yeah. I
I'm
always
just
forget
saying.
about that part.
So Mike's advice to make sure you wear flashlights or the sunglasses is good advice in case somebody hits you with a tactical flashlight along the lines of this one here. So
Well, it's not going to matter. That one's going to burn a hole straight through your torso anyway. So I think we determined that.
it's the ultimate tactical flashlight. It blinds your opponent, burns them, and you clobber them over the head with it. Game over.
It's a
Actually, that's
man-portable
strategic-
directed energy weapon is what it
That's
is.
I was about to say that's a strategic flashlight. You can shoot down satellites with that.
Right?
I'll tell you what, you can do a lot with that flashlight for sure.
Hey, I mean, we have dazzler devices for a reason, and that actually exceeds a lot of the requirements for a dazzler device.
Oh,
And-
there's that new one where it redirects your speech back at you. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, just for the people who have used digital comms, where on a repeater, where you talk and then you hear your voice like a second later,
Yeah.
it kind of screws you up. But apparently they're using something in riots now. They're testing it, and it's just throwing your speech back at you, and it makes everybody disoriented. I'd love to give that thing a whirl, man.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
because they're probably going, do I really sound that stupid?
Yes.
What are
There it
those?
is.
I
There
can't
it
see
is,
that.
Keith.
we can't read that, man. Especially not the way your hands shake.
Simplex-
Audio record
audio
simplex repeater controller. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You have a base station at home, and you have a walkie-talkie that you can reach the base station. When the base station receives it, there'll be a short pause and it will repeat it, which means that anybody else who's in range of your base station will hear what you said. It's a poor man's repeater, what you just described.
Hmm.
And it works. It's really effective if you're one man trying to test your signal strength, but otherwise it repeats your signal, gets it to a broader audience, and hopefully somebody saves you if need be. So anyway,
Good times.
small piece of technology there. All right. So I think we've covered peaceful protests enough for now. Mike, let's go
Mostly
back.
peaceful. Mostly
Yes,
peaceful.
Mostly peaceful. Right. Mike, give us the conflicted question again. Let's see what our answers are.
Ooh.
Okay. Again, grocery stores and mini marts have been ransacked of all food. Your group is low on food and is in desperate need of resources. What other locations would you start looking for food or possible supplies to barter with?
I'll go first. I would hit office buildings, which most likely have fridges and cafeterias and or food areas, and see what I could scrounge up there. That'd be my first hit.
Damn it. You stole mine.
Actually, I would hit feed stores.
Hmm.
They have corn, they have oats, they have stuff that you can then use. You can grind up corn and make corn flour. You can, if a horse can eat it, you can eat it. It may not taste that great, but you can eat it. The same goes for pet stores. If you look at the ingredients on a can of dog food, how is that any different than fancy French pate? It really isn't. The old joke about old people eating dog food, you can eat it if you have to. It's high in protein, lots of minerals,
And if you're old enough to have eaten C rations, you've definitely eaten worse.
This is true. Old MREs, out of date MREs.
Yeah. The old dark brown bag ones.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I lived on those in Afghanistan. And any place with vending machines.
Mhm.
Crash the
Fair
vending
enough.
machine, take what's in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Randy?
Well, yeah. I mean, the old reality if there's no food, I mean, of course there's local wildlife, but you may not be able to do that. But I guess it depends on how much society has collapsed or not. But yes, you would look for any kind of manufacturer, any kind of office, because they're going to have some sort of food there, right? I mean, if there's abandoned houses at that point, residents, you may be able to find some there. And I think, people even ate leather back in the day, right? I think during our when we were settled in this country and people were left here, they ended up eating leather. So the old saying in the Army is, you don't have to like it. It just needs to make a poop, basically, but that's not the word we use.
Fair enough. Mike, you want to add anything?
Yeah. Places that I would go, daycares and schools.
Yeah.
They always have food laying around. It's always stashed all over the place. And you get to a lot of cafeterias where you can get bulk quantities, usually by can.
Same for hotels, motels.
Mike, do you remember when Cindy and I were in Puget Sound in Washington State at our families, and we discussed, what would you do if the SH, hit the fan? And they are fairly close to an industrial park full of distribution centers for companies like Amazon and otherwise. And that's the first thing that came to mind for us. They're so close to it, but it's far enough away from the main part of the city that you could probably get in and out and get some packaged foods out of there.
Yeah, but if the local city that you're around has any major organized groups, that's going to be a #1 target for them.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, it was
first to go.
Yeah, major distribution sites or major stores like Walmart and stuff like that.
So
yeah,
a good alternative is go to the warehouse district. And I've searched so many warehouses. You've got the same thing with office buildings. You got all the guys that store their food there in their desks and everything else. But I've been to a lot of warehouses where they look like, I can think of one right now. It looked like a normal, like a storage facility. It had no markings on or anything. When you went in there, huge baking facility, ginormous. They made a national brand like baking product that sat on a shelf for decades. And I remember going in there going like, man, I never thought that this is what I was going to see when I came in here. And there's whole warehouses full that look like ABC manufacturing, but their manufacturing is a food product. There's that. And then the last one, this was my last resort. Jails. If you go to I can tell you right now, if you live by a jail, be prepared for all those inmates to get released and come into your environment, and they're going to be organized and they're going to form gangs to come rape and take your stuff. They're going to get out of there as quick as they can, and they will. That means their food that was left there is probably still going to be there, but that's my last resort.
News flash, Keith, that's not how it went down in The Walking Dead. So, they stayed in the prisons in The Walking Dead, and we know that Hollywood knows better.
There are people, so I can tell you right now, the deputies and the correctional officers, the way they're treated and the short staffing, they will more than likely go home to their families right away.
Right.
And there are people that volunteer there that know how the jails work and have vowed that if the lights go off for more than a couple of days, they are going there to release everybody.
Randy?
Food.
Yeah, I think the biggest advice is do it quickly, right? When things fall apart, go hit those places that are close to your house that that we just mentioned, and do it right away. Because as on another show we mentioned, when the looting starts, you're not going to believe what that looks like. It will be of biblical proportions. The roads will be full everywhere of people going and doing the same exact thing and taking every single thing, and then the criminals come out. So that's what
when the looting starts, it's amazing how many shots fired there are when that's occurring. Yeah, they're shooting everywhere.
Yeah.
Jeff?
The Wild West at that point.
No, I was just going to say, think about anywhere somebody would spend 8 hours or more, because people like to eat. Office buildings, school, someplace, anywhere someone would lay their head at night, because what's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning? You want coffee, you want breakfast. So you look at those kind of places, if they're commercial, especially, they're catering to a customer. You have a cheap motel, but they always have the free Danish and coffee in the lobby. I mean, there's a box of Danishes somewhere, so you got to hit all those places.
Has anybody else here physically been in the presence of Mike Sterling before he's had coffee in the morning other than me?
I mean, not pretty.
Nope,
it's not pleasant.
It is not pretty at all. That you want to steer clear of that.
What are you guys doing that you see each other in the morning?
Hanging out at Jason Sawyer's.
I was just saying,
Don't ask, don't tell, man.
Yeah. Who are you to ask such things?
Three's
I
a
just
crowd,
want to show
okay?
one more thing on this, something we talked about earlier. There is Bigfoot. Look, see, I can prove it. I found him. There he is.
I'm telling
There
you.
you go.
Perfect proof of it.
He's
Taking
in
a
North
selfie.
Georgia. He's in North Georgia. I can prove it. I got the pictures as well. All right. So last reminder that this Friday, last day for Survival Dispatch News on the Survival Dispatch channel. Starting next Monday, Survival Dispatch News will be on its own channel. Pay attention to our community posts that we make here. Wow, look at this. I didn't expect that kind of. I think that was actually meant for you, Mike, not for me. So we'll make some posts on our community page with a link to where the new Survival Dispatch channel is, or Survival Dispatch News channel. If you could follow us over there, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, we'd really appreciate it. I'm so glad that no longer happens to me, and that it's been passed on to you. I'm very, very proud.
We just got back.
Yeah, you've trumped all of us, Keith. Well done.
No, I just finally figured out how to work it.
It's too funny. All right. Appreciate all y'all's time. We'll catch y'all on the next one.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Ciao.